Here's your wrestling news for January 31st, 2021. And your headlines for today include Mia Yim, Reckoning, tests positive for COVID-19. Judge dismisses $500 billion lawsuit against WWE that claimed the company uses Sorcery. How Alexa Bliss dealt with an obsessed fan. Roman Reigns attacks The Undertaker with a direct statement. Roman Reigns threatens WWE NXT Tag Team. WWE could be planning for Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman next. Matt Riddle calls out Goldberg for having thin skin. Current WWE female superstar takes a dig at Goldberg. Lars Sullivan reemerges before the Royal Rumble. Natalya posts and deletes photo with WWE Hall of Famer ahead of Royal Rumble, and more. We are kicking off today with some unfortunate news from Retribution as Reckoning has tested positive. On her personal Twitter account, Mia Yim confirmed the bad news after previously dismissing rumors that she'd tested positive. In her statement, Yim explained that she's been tested every week for months, which have all come back negative, but this week, her positive result came back less than an hour after her test had been administered. Yim also encouraged fans to respect her privacy, stay safe, wash their hands, and wear masks when they can. This explains why the sole female Retribution member was absent from Raw this week, and it's unclear what this means for her boyfriend Keith Lee, especially with the Royal Rumble this Sunday. There's also the question of how WWE will respond to Yim's public statement, as they've been very opposed to any WWE employees coming forward about test results. Our thoughts are with Yim and everyone dealing with this situation caused by what's going on, and we're sending our best wishes to the Retribution member. Now, it's no secret that WWE have faced plenty of lawsuits over the years, but this week, the company emerged victorious against one of its most absurd legal challenges. According to Heel by Nature, a district judge in Florida dismissed a lawsuit on January 29th, 4 days after it was filed by a fan named Cedric Cunningham. In his suit, Cunningham claimed WWE uses Sorcery to degrade millions of viewers with their TV broadcasts, and was seeking $500 billion for emotional distress, cruel and unusual punishment, and discrimination in the filing. The judge dismissed the case as frivolous, saying it'd be a waste of public funds to investigate the matter further, and now the only sorcery from WWE that fans need to question is how did Mark Henry and Mae Young give birth to a hand? Speaking of fans who take things too far, Alexa Bliss has had her fair share of problematic fans, and had to deal with a repeat offender this week. One fan, known only as Robert, has seemingly been harassing Bliss for a while now, and this week sent another tweet to the goddess of WWE in his attempts to end her engagement to Ryan Cabrera. Saying he knows Bliss better than anyone, Robert listed off some Alexa trivia, including her parents' names, her hobbies, and that she's allergic to strawberries. Facts that can easily be found with a simple Google search. Bliss wasn't happy with having to deal with Robert again, saying, "Sir, once again for the millionth time, you do not know me. I do not know you, we have never spoken, and we have never met. Stop making multiple accounts every time I block you, and stop harassing my fiancé. I really don't know how many more times I can say this. Please move on." Robert did try and defend himself from other fans calling him out, saying he's telling the truth about her fiancé and is trying to protect her. A line deep in irony, Robert asked fans to mind their own business when it comes to Bliss, and hopefully the former Raw Women's Champion won't have to deal with him for much longer. Now, The Undertaker stirred up some controversy recently with his comments about WWE's current product, and now Roman Reigns is taking aim at the company's so-called golden period. During an interview with Sports Illustrated to hype up tonight's Royal Rumble, Reigns commented about what he would have been like in the Attitude Era, and his comments have ruffled a lot of feathers. He said, "It would have been too easy. I feel like John Cena said it before. It's a challenge to be PG. It's a challenge to not have to go the cheap route. The character development was easier. If I could just start chugging bourbon and smoking cigars, imagine what my character would be. We could even go further on this mob boss thing. It's more challenging what we do now." Reigns does bring an interesting point up, namely that superstars didn't have as many limits put on them in the Attitude Era compared to today's roster, and we're wondering how Stone Cold Steve Austin would have fared competing in a PG product. Reigns also noted that he expects his comments won't be well received and will make headlines, but clearly the Tribal Chief is more than willing to be the locker room leader and stand up for the superstars of today. The Tribal Chief isn't just taking shots at the Dead Man in the Attitude Era, but an NXT Tag Team as well. On SmackDown, Kevin Owens wore a shirt for the team Everrise, which caught the attention of Matt Martell, who described the prizefighter as "your next Universal Champion with a sick new shirt." This comment didn't sit well with the Tribal Chief, who encouraged fans to buy the shirt now because he'll have him banned after he retains the Universal title tonight. We'll have to see if Reigns lives up to his promise, but we do know that the head of the table is being considered the heavy favorite going in to tonight's Last Man Standing match. Over to Raw now, and the Hurt Business has been booked strong since forming last year and are ready to take on all comers. While speaking on Busted Open Radio, Bobby Lashley spoke about names he'd like to face and mentioned he'd love to have another feud with Braun Strowman. He said, "Braun's always a huge deal. One person that can disrupt stuff in the Hurt Business, and I loved fighting him the first time." The former Universal Champion returned on this week's SmackDown despite being a Raw superstar, and with the road to WrestleMania 37 starting tonight at the Royal Rumble, it's possible fans will see the Almighty and the Monster Among Men have a no-doubt physical feud very soon. Speaking of the Rumble, Goldberg will be challenging for the WWE title tonight, and his recent defense of The Undertaker and claim that people are too thin-skinned have come back to haunt him. Unsurprisingly, Matt Riddle was quick to call Goldberg out on his claim, saying that the Hall of Famer's skin is, quote, ultra-thin, extra-sensitive thin. It's no secret that Goldberg has had issues with Riddle's comments in the past and has spoken in length about what the King of Bros has said, and it seems that the beef between these two has no sign of ending. Riddle isn't the only one with an issue of Goldberg, as Paige recently made her views on Goldberg clear whilst appearing on WWE Backstage. Addressing tonight's WWE Championship match, the Anti-Diva said she's a fan of Goldberg, but feels he shouldn't be in tonight's match. Paige praised Drew McIntyre, saying he's carried the company for the past unprecedented year, and also spoke about superstars who have been in the WWE for a while without getting a title shot. Paige is certainly not alone in her criticisms of Goldberg's booking since his return at Raw Legends Night, but despite massive fan backlash, a win tonight wouldn't be the first time that WWE have put a top title on the Hall of Famer at the expense of a current-day superstar. More Royal Rumble news next, as a big name may be making his return on tonight's show. Lars Sullivan has been out of action for a very long time, and his name hasn't been spoken in creative meetings. But if his Instagram account is to be believed, Sullivan could return during tonight's Men's Rumble match. On social media, Sullivan posted an intense workout video, and he looks to be in phenomenal shape and ready for a return. It's no secret that Sullivan has had a rocky journey in WWE, as his past comments and actions have come back to haunt him, and he's been plagued by injuries. After over a year away, Sullivan returned for just 2 matches in October 2020 before disappearing again, but tonight will mark the return of the Freak of WWE. A return from Sullivan would be surprising to say the least, and whilst the Royal Rumble is a night built on shocks and surprises, WWE are revealing a lot of the show ahead of time. On WWE Backstage, it was confirmed that Randy Orton will be the first entrant in the Rumble match, while Edge will return to the ring as the second entrant. WWE's handling of Edge has been strange to say the least, as now, not only will fans not be shocked by a surprise return by the Rated R superstar like last year, but they also know exactly when he'll return in the 30-man match. Though the odds are against both men, Edge is one of the favorites to win the Rumble match, and if he does, he'll be the third man to win from number 2, after Mr. McMahon in 1999 and Rey Mysterio in 2006. For the Women's Rumble match, a spot between Natalya and Tamina saw the Canadian earn the coveted number 30 spot, and time will tell whether this late entry will give the self-professed best of all time the winning edge at tonight's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Speaking of the Queen of Hearts, we now know Natalya will be entering number 30, but she may have spoiled a surprise return for the Women's Rumble match. On Instagram, Natalya shared a photo of herself with Trish Stratus, saying she can't wait for tonight's Rumble pay-per-view. This has quickly led to speculation that Trish will be returning tonight, especially after Natalya quickly deleted the photo from her Instagram story, but evidently not quickly enough. Stratus was the final woman in the first ever Women's Rumble match, and if rumors are to be believed, fans can expect Stratusfaction in tonight's 30-woman contest. And we're ending today with WrestleMania news, and although this year, like last year's show, will be 2 nights, fans shouldn't get used to this format. Speaking to TV Insider, Stephanie McMahon discussed the plans for WrestleMania 37, saying they want to maximize the show's value, and added, "We have plans to go back to 1 night for future WrestleMania events, but of course, we will see what happens this year. I want to deliver the best possible value we can for our fans who are hopefully able to attend. Both WrestleManias 38 and 39 have been announced to happen on one night, but that seemingly hinges on things getting back to normal before those shows take place. Interestingly, one major source of praise for WrestleMania 36 was that it was an easy watch, as 2 4-hour shows were far easier than sitting for one 8-hour event. Whether WWE gets back to one-day manias remains to be seen, but WWE are clearly hoping to go back to how things were after this year.